Rio de Janeiro with Abid Imam.
Welcome to Rio de Janeiro. My name is Abid Imam. I can't believe I'm saying this, but joining me for a wide-ranging conversation is Adam Gilchrist, one of the greatest cricketers to ever roam this planet and an all-round legend of sport. For a locally made grassroots show, to have someone of Gilly's stature is just an awesome vote in confidence for what the show is all about, and I really thank him for supporting this. Gilly's someone who would have discussed his cricket exploits countless times, so I thought it would be fantastic to instead cover some different ground with him. We chatted about his life experiences, wisdom, views on inclusion, cultural diversity. We covered family, business, commentary, and some sport sprinkled in for good measure as well. I really hope you get to learn something new from someone who's just an Aussie icon. A huge thanks to SiteBeat, who are supporting the show. They've got fantastic, easy-to-build websites, and a lot of the show goodies are on abidimam.com, which was built by SiteBeat as well. Without further ado, enjoy the chat with Gilly. Well, Gilly, thank you. It's an absolute pleasure and an honour to have you join me on Rio de Janeiro. Thank you for supporting the show. It's locally made here in WA, and you are here in Perth, Western Australia as well. How's life going for you here in town?
Yes, mate. Good to chat finally after, I don't know how much you'll promote it, but a false start last week where I totally just stuffed up my diary and calendar and got everything mixed up. So apologies, mate. But finally to sit down with you is awesome. So yeah, going really well. Thanks. I'm recovering from a little bit of shoulder surgery, that a bit of wear and tear from my former life, but no, that's all good and can't complain about a thing really. We're cruising along, sort of family's all well and healthy, and as we know, everyone here in Perth, as this whole extraordinary last 12 to 14 months continues, we're very fortunate to be where we are. So life reasonably normal and going well, thanks.
Something that really fascinated me about you, Gilly, I've watched a lot of cricket and enjoyed your exploits over decades, was some of the passions that you have and the causes close to your heart. And I just wanted to zoom in on the inclusion in cricket and the autism program that you were involved with. What was the genesis to that?
Yeah, it's a wonderful program of which, as we know, there's more and more inclusion, more and more inclusive programs across a whole variety of not just sports but areas of life, isn't there? And that's a good thing. The awareness of the need for these type of activities that often for groups in society that can easily be brushed over or looked over the top of and not understand the challenges that they may face to try to, the best of their capabilities, live the life and lifestyle that we often can easily take for granted. So cricket is one area that is focused on that area. And I guess more specifically, the Wembley District's Junior Cricket Club is a club that I've been associated with since our eldest boy, who's now 19, his first steps into cricket at about under 5s or under 6. So I've been, and now with all our kids going through that club, been associated in one way, shape or form for quite a number of years. Was on the committee for a while, but there's one of those sort of magical volunteer workers that is now president of the club, Margie Oldfield, that got in touch with me because she herself started to incorporate her visions of what inclusion should be into the cricket club, and set up a wonderful program for young girls that may not otherwise want to play cricket, may have other areas in their life that are a bit more challenging, and trying to basically bring them into the concept of a club, and where, obviously in a club don't have to, you're not obliged to, but there's an opportunity to share your story, share your issues, share your problems that you face, and maybe there's a way that whether indirectly or directly, you can find a way through those troubled waters with support and advice that you may not think is there elsewhere. So that's her philosophy. And then in partnership with Autism WA, they decided to get this program up and running, and asked me if I would be keen to be the ambassador. And so that was pretty much it. And it really struck a chord with me because my mother was an English history teacher, but then moved into special ed and working with severely handicapped and a lot of autistic kids. And I guess having been through that journey to an extent and learning a lot from her and experiencing what she did day in, day out, and being fascinated by these miracle workers that do commit their life to that sort of area and the betterment for others, of others. It's a bit of a no-brainer to jump on.
You touched on family, the kids playing cricket, and also your mum there. What's it like now being a sport parent? Yeah,
it's a question that a lot people sort of ask. I suppose a lot of people ask with a preconceived idea in their mind of how you'll be. Some people, I can see them that they're thinking that I'll be really intense and really encouraging the kids to the point of almost pushing them to really go hard at it or be ultra competitive, and I guess there's others too that may think it's the other way, where you might try to veer away from that area that you had so much of your life involved in and don't lead the kids to that way. But I think myself and Mel, my wife, have just tried to be as typical a parent or parents as what you see anywhere in society, of kids entering sport at beginner age, and be it cricket or footy or whatever the sport, hockey, athletics. The kids have had a crack at most of it, which is great. Clearly, like most parents, we love our kids being active and out there in the climatically, we're blessed with pretty encouraging sort of situations to get outside and be active. So I don't think I'm any different to the majority of parents there, in that I just want to see the kids. I love team sports, love that concept of sharing an experience, both good and bad, with teammates. Like most parents, just want to see the kids active, engaged, having fun, and learning all the various parts of about life that sport can help you learn. There's so many microcosms of life in amongst the various different sports that we play and the challenges that you're confronted with. So that's pretty much it, mate. I don't think I've been anything exceptional by way of, I'm not a better sports parent, played top level cricket. I learn a lot from other parents, the way I observe them interacting as coaches or as sideline parents. And I guess, and again, I don't think, the majority of sports parents out there enjoy at all seeing that sort of ugly parent, aggressive parent on the sideline. And it's just trying to carry out and make it as safe a fun environment for everyone that's there.
Well, I love the fact that you said you were part of the committee at the cricket club. So that's one of the tough steps sports administrators try to recruit volunteers and take that step to help out at committee level. So that's fantastic. Gilly, were you one to sports sample when you were much younger? Did you try out many different sports, or was it relatively early that you specialised in cricket?
Yeah, grew up in regional New South Wales. And we had every possible, sport. Well, no, we didn't have every possible sport that you can think of on offer, but we had, our sports facilities were unbelievable. Out in country towns, small country towns, you had ovals that went for miles, and footy goalposts up and cricket pitches everywhere, and tennis courts everywhere, netball, soccer. So all the, I guess, and this is back in the sort of 70s and early 80s we're talking here, so a while ago, it's probably didn't have the exposure to all the many different sports that are available for kids to play now. But I think, I tried to give most of it a go. the staple sort of, it was pretty stereotypical though when it came to the staple ones. It was sort of cricket in summer, cricket and tennis in summer, and then soccer and footy in winter. So that was, but whether it was in the schoolyard or in unorganised sport, which I think that is an area where those lessons that I mentioned earlier. I think that's where you can learn as many lessons. Certainly learn skill-wise and develop your skills in as much in unorganised sport. And what I mean by that is going up to the school or to the park or to the basketball courts with your mates or just with a group or by yourself, and not playing in a structured sports system. I think you do get a hell of a lot out of that natural play component that helps lay the foundation as you move through your sporting life and then your life away from sport too.
Growing up in regional New South Wales and being able to travel extensively throughout the world, and now it's a unique time in human history where we can't really step on a plane and cross borders right now as much. But how do you reflect on how you were able to view different parts of the world and share dressing rooms with players of different cultures, and how that shaped your worldview?
Yeah, that aspect of it is that you mentioned, that sort of cultural experience, both experiencing the different nations we went to and the different oppositions and the different environments that we're in with my more regular teammates. That coupled with towards the end of my career, where the Indian Premier League started up, and I played in the first 6 seasons of that. That experience and really being immersed in the different cultures of new teammates who are all from different countries around the world. They are the most fond memories and most vivid memories, I think, of as you get older and reflect a little bit on your playing days. It's very nice and easy to reflect on results and games and specific innings, and that's probably what's most often mentioned to you as an ex-professional sportsman. What about that game or that win or whatever? But it's all that sort of those games, and the statistical history is like your skeleton of your career, and then this discussion around cultural experience and the characters you meet and the opposition and the life journey you went on. That's the flesh around the skeleton, and that's the real body of your career. So they're remarkable. And as I say, that IPL experience, I think is in the second year of the IPL, I was asked to captain, and we focused a lot after a failed first year where we came last. We focused more leading into the second season about that cultural appreciation, and we did a day where we had a facilitator come in, and we had 6 different nationalities in our team, and even within the Indian contingent, we had experienced cricketers who were from the north of India who'd never met and didn't speak exactly the same tongue as those in the south. All those variations were there, and we really tried to facilitate an environment where we could all get to know each other a lot better, appreciate each other's cultural differences with a lot more detail and a lot greater respect, and allow us to forge our own team culture and team identity. And we went on and won the tournament, and that was as fulfilling as anything that I achieved in my career. I know as captain of that, to help be part of the leadership group that brought that to fruition was so fulfilling. And, again, reflect on that with really, really strong, fond memories.
India is a country synonymous with cricket and just how religiously they follow it. What was it like for your first couple of occasions in India compared to towards the end of your career, where you are the captain of Deccan Chargers and in that incredible environment? How did your relationship with India evolve through your career?
In a huge manner. I can clearly remember my first trip to India was 1996. Rushed over as Ian Healy was injured. So I was, it was the dream phone call that finally came. Quick, pack your bags, go to the airport, you're flying over to play for Australia. So whilst that was very hectic, and landed in Delhi at midnight and got the team bus to the hotel, but just everything about that trip was a real shock, which is a term that you hear a lot for people's first experience into India, and a variety of a number of, I guess, those Asian countries that you haven't been exposed to before. But certainly India was a big culture shock. The sights and the sounds and the aromas are nothing like what I'd sort of grown up in regional New South Wales, and the impact of the really overt things that you see, like the poverty and all the different levels of society, or the fact that there was seemed like two levels of either mega rich or extremely poor. It's a bit of assault on everything about it. And I think too, a bit that coupled with a really naive, immature at that point attitude from cricket and Australian cricket going there, and the perception of what India's like, and you sort of grew up hearing about how bad it is and how poor it is, and you're going to get sick, and it's just a bad place to play cricket. So you sort of go there a bit with this learned perspective that really you got no idea about, but it's just ingrained in a little bit, not forced, but just the discussion that you pick up on, and get there, and all of a sudden it's such an extreme shock and then we didn't win a game on the whole trip. I remember coming away thinking that was hard. I didn't really like that. It's really, it's not a great place to tour. But it was only when I got back and started to relay my experiences to family and friends, I just found myself almost drifting back there to the scenarios I was describing and thinking, God, that was actually so unique. That was cool. I wouldn't mind going again to check out more of that, where I brushed it off before. I should have looked at, there was a fair bit of I should have done that more. I should have had my eyes open a bit more and not just fallen into the party line that this is a crap joint and let's play and get out of here sort of philosophy. So fortunately, I've pretty much been back pretty much every year since, save for 2020. Which we all understand why that probably has been a bit restricted. So it just grew. My love and passion for India just grew and grew and grew. And, it is the land that can make you feel, like a king and feel like someone right down at the bottom of the food chain all in one day. And that's just on the cricket field where your results can go from being so successful to being decimated by India when they fight back, and off the field, it's just I've never felt anything but love and support and a big welcome to be there. And then post cricket, even more so by going over there in various roles and taking on various activities. So my experience of culturally learning and developing and improving myself as a person, I think, and it developed a great deal over the years. And it's a trip that's just been, magical, that whole journey, and cannot wait to get back there.
Yeah, my dad's from Pakistan, so it's an area of fascination. I've only been once when I was 4 to Pakistan, but very similar and incredible cricket rivalry as well, Adam.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where, we all know how unfortunate the global travel opportunities are at the moment, and hopefully it doesn't last too long. But that's, our frustration with Pakistan too, obviously, with the fact from a cricketing point of view, and I guess, a general safety perception point of view around the world, that travel has been limited there for so long. And, I was there in 98, and it was again, the affection and love offered to you and welcome, the welcome for touring cricket teams back then was unbelievable. And you could tell it would be a similar journey, but to that I experienced in India. But nice to see it being revived to as much as it can more recently with touring teams going there, and let's see coming out of the pandemic. Which part of Pakistan was he from?
He's from Karachi. So I
Oh,
was
yeah.
only 4 when I went over there, but
Yeah.
it was such a powerful experience that,
Yeah.
believe it or not, I still remember bits of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was a culture shock, to say the least. But
Yeah.
family have been inviting me over, and I say, I toe the party line and say, when the Australian cricket team can make it over, that's when I will. So
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah.
that's it, Gilly. You've travelled extensively, but is there a place that you've wanted to visit? We love to celebrate culture and travel in this show.
Yeah. 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 Good. I mean, there's so many places that there's a lot of Europe, a lot of that I haven't ventured to. There's Alaska up around that, right up North America and up into that region. It'd be quite fascinating. And I've been on the South American mainland in the form of flying into Guyana, part of the West Indies, the Caribbean, but that's actually not an island. It's on the mainland of South America, but anywhere down through South American countries would be fascinating. Listening to stories of people, probably more so people who have gone over there in that sort of backpackery type role and gone there with not much and just done enough to survive and gain these invaluable experiences. I might have passed the backpacker age just for a few years anyway, but we'll see. But yeah, there's plenty of places on offer that would be fascinating to visit.
As soon as you said that, I only recently listened to your episode with Mark Howard, the Howard
yeah.
Games, and you did
well,
a fantastic job. That was a great one.
He's a storyteller with plenty of stories to tell, and that's exactly who I was thinking of in regards mainly, is that his description of it and the opportunities that if you're prepared to take a bit of a risk and have a go. And again, that might be challenged now in this day and age compared to 20 years ago, but still, that's the fascination of travel, isn't it? Going and not being sure what you're going to turn up to get. Do the pictures look the same as what they did? Or does the reality look like the same as the pictures that I saw and booked? But yeah, that's part of the buzz of it.
This might be a really good jumping off point to talk about your transition into commentary. And Gilly, you're just fantastic because commentators have such an important, integral role in guiding us through the game, becoming a voice of summer, as you would know. What made you choose to enter that field rather than being an administrator, a coach, the myriad of other things you could do in cricket?
Yeah, it's not the journey that I, through my playing days, I even considered or coveted, to the point where I don't remember ever saying I'm never doing that, but I certainly didn't sit and go, oh yeah, I think I'll try to head that way when I finish. And I was afforded, as soon as I retired from the Australian team, I was afforded the opportunity by Channel 9 to go and join that commentary team, which was a pretty sort of intimidating list of names there back in that day, along with obviously Richie Benaud and Tony Gregg and Ian Chappell, Bill Laurie and the like. So I did say, look, can I just do maybe a little bit just to see whether I like it, whether I'm any good, whether you think I'm any good and want me to sign on. But so I did one test match and a couple of one-dayers, and I didn't come away thinking that it was for me, to be brutally honest. And that wasn't a reflection on those guys or the team, or the network or anything like that. It was more just a whole lot of things. Didn't feel like I had much to offer, and probably a bit soon after playing, that I was talking about, my mates. And, so I sort of said thanks, but no thanks at that point in time. 5 years later, and fortunately I had plenty of things to get my teeth into post-cricket. I had a number of relationships that sort of started out as sponsorships when I was playing, but always tried to dig a bit deeper into any relationship or partnership that I had in that regard, in a commercial sense, to try to maybe learn a bit more about the company or the people in the company and give them a bit more. So that allowed those relationships to continue post my playing days. So I wasn't sort of desperately searching where life was going to take me or what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. But 5 years later, when Channel 10 picked up the Big Bash and they needed to build a commentary team, and a gentleman by the name of David Barham was the head of sport at Channel 10, and he basically called and asked if I wanted to be a part of it. And I sort of ummed and ahed and remembered my experience from 5 years before, thinking, no, I don't think I'm it. But I said, who else are you going to get? And he said, Ricky Ponting, Damien Fleming and Mark Waugh. And I said, well, I reckon I might be in, because they're three blokes that I'm really close mates with, and I'll give it a go. If we're doing it with good people, and, so we jumped in there and gave it a go, and it was just I just loved it. It just was so much fun. It was a different, I don't expect everyone that listens to this show, your podcast or watches, but to be cricket experts or aficionados, but it was a bit of a different take on commentary compared to that traditional model. And we just wanted to have fun and try to project our enthusiasm for the game and our friendship, and try to make it a warm environment where people could learn a bit, have fun and be entertained, and more so just have the capability to watch the game, appreciate the skills of the stars that were out there, and have their own judgment on it, not be told how you should watch it or think of it.
I feel like your style is very much like the way you batted, really upbeat and positive. So I don't know if you've heard that feedback before, but that's just my take on it.
Yeah, right. I hadn't reflected on it in that regard, actually.
If we can rewind a little bit back, but when you were a cricketer and you're watching the game, were you watching it with the commentary on?
So it was the question, when I was playing professional cricket, would we have the commentary up?
Yeah.
That was it would be on and off at different times in a change rooms. Generally, no. As a general statement, I reckon it was off or turned down more often than not. Some guys did like to sit and listen to every word and probably sat there and write things down and I'll remember that, or and others didn't want to know anything about it. But whatever the mood of the change rooms, the viewing room was, or if guys went to other parts of the change rooms and wanted to turn it on, they could. But yeah, as a general statement, I didn't think there was much to be gained out of listening when you were playing. But of course, you're very familiar with all the cricket commentators from the amount of cricket that we watch, either of other games or just growing up, because it was still, very much the core group of commentators commentating when we were playing, went through my era, that when we were growing up. So they were there for the long haul, and so we were familiar with them all.
And do you have a preference of commentating the shorter forms of the game, or do you prefer that longer format, Test cricket?
I think, it's an interesting one to consider. I'd have to say, because of my love of Test cricket and that really sort of that pure long version origins of the game, and that was what I loved playing the most, I'd say that might, if I had to pick between choosing one last game to commentate as a Test or a T20 game, I'd say Test cricket all the time. Very closely behind is the white ball cricket, particularly T20, because that's where I did fall in love with the broadcast side of it and learnt so much. It was through that T20 avenue. And at the end of the day, any game that's entertaining and possibly close and you don't know the result, or the result's difficult to predict or see coming, I think it doesn't matter what the format is, it's going to make it a better game to commentate on and clearly a better game to spectate.
Gilly, you mentioned something a few responses ago about commercial opportunities and how you used to go that extra mile for your partners and try to immerse yourself a little bit. Yep. Where did that come from?
I was pretty, I don't know whether it was big-headed or stupid or naive or arrogant, but right from the age of 12 is where I wrote to the first company asking for a sponsorship.
Who was it?
I wrote to bat companies, all the all the big bat brands, Gray Nichols, Slazenger, and all that. Wrote saying my top scores this, and I made the fun off ghost under 14s, and feel like sponsoring me, and in return, I'll promote your gear. That's what. So, whether I was going to say commercially interested or savvy or entrepreneurial, but that wasn't so much in an entrepreneur. I want to make money out of this. It was more just trying to be like what my heroes were and the guys on TV or were sponsored, and everyone loved to have a new bat or the best gear around or whatever, and we weren't. We were financially, okay without being necessarily over the top that we could go and buy everything we needed. We never went without, but we certainly weren't in the bracket of, mum and dad topped us up with brand new stuff every time. I was the youngest of 4 kids and pretty humble, happy, livelihood and childhood. But so that's where that sort of started, writing letters like that. But I amazingly had my first sponsorship when I was about 14. So whether the marketing sponsorship manager for the Albion felt sorry for me or thought it was a cute letter, but sent me a bit of gear, and I'll never forget that was okay. And it's now my job to do all I can to try and promote their gear and wear it with pride and wear it and represent the brand well. And I guess that's where it stemmed from. So then as life progressed and I started to get opportunities for those sort of commercial partnerships off the field, very much so. I think that foundation of appreciation and understanding that it's very much a two-way street. A sponsorship wasn't just the sponsored player getting everything and just, it's the brand or the company's pleasure to have that association. Quite the opposite. It's like, hang on a minute, we've got to give back the contractual obligation if it's an appearance or a TV commercial, but try to give them more than they could have even hoped for, because that's how good, strong relationships are, about what you can do for the other side of it rather than what you can get out of it. And it gives me a better chance to forge a relationship with them as people, but also know and understand the brand or the company, the journey, the history, and better represent it.
I'm really interested in, you must have received so many requests for partnerships and opportunities. How was your selection process? Because it's your brand, your name, your reputation as well on the line. And I guess, I have been very, very fortunate to have a variety of activity in that sort of space and continue to, and that is the ultimate sort of question, I guess. There's some things that just jump out at you that you go, well, that's a no-brainer. That's exactly, that seems to fit and feel perfect. If you need to, I've probably found, and I've been very fortunate to have terrific advice and advisors around me, ranging originally from mum and dad as you're younger and up until the point where you sort of leave home. And of course, they're always a port of call, aren't they, for any of that sort of stuff? But I've had a mentor, stroke manager, stroke godfather to our daughter, stroke best mate through the whole journey. A guy that's 15 or so years older than me, but we've just become as close of friends as you could ever hope. We've never had a written agreement in the management manager-athlete situation. We've never really had a blow-up or a fight. Not saying we don't necessarily disagree on things here and there, but it's not to the point where it's ever been heated. So Stephen's been a wonderful mentor and advisor for me as part of that journey. If ever we've found we've had to really sit and really examine the should we or shouldn't we, by that stage you're probably telling yourself probably shouldn't, regardless of whether the financial component or the brand or what is it or what's the profile like or how it's going to be used. If you're really needing to delve into the reasoning for doing it, it's probably a good indication that you shouldn't be doing it. And it's probably better for whoever that other party is, that they know that, rather than getting you on and then it becoming a chore or a real labour. And of course,
profile-wise in this day and age with social media and so on like that, everyone's exposed to being someone delivering a harsh critique on their, what they're involved with, be it the brand or the cause or the, and the offshoots from that. And it is a challenging space because you can get associated with things unjustly. But if you're pretty true to your core value, and if a possible partnership fits within that, and you can put your hand on your heart and say, yeah, that's not going to give me any grief. You're not going to please everyone. Someone will have an opinion, but if you stay true to that value, I think you're pretty right.
And how have you found navigating boardrooms and those opportunities as an ambassador?
Yeah, I like the idea. I think ambassador role boardrooms. I did sit on a couple of boards when I first finished. While I was still playing, I was given an opportunity to sit on a board of a foreign exchange company, and that was amazing experience. Like really, really valuable experience. But did it lead me to want to go into either foreign exchange currency businesses? No, because I wasn't an expert in that, but they weren't looking for expertise. But it also did make me feel like I wanted to pursue this portfolio of board seats at board tables. And it probably that and a couple of experiences after that probably made me realise that it's not an area where I want to be. I probably feel more inclined to be at that sort of an ambassador or even a sort of ambassador stroke investor into a business, and then deal more with the people, and be it internally or externally, being customers, rather than necessarily sitting at the level of governance and direction and that sort of leadership. It's probably more that sort of humanities side engagement with people that I realised after some experiences, depending on what the organisation was. I sat on as chair of the board for the National Straight A Council for 6 years, and it was just one of the great experiences. So fulfilling, the people you meet, the stories you learn about, and the journey that the nation's been on, and what the narrative is at the time. That changes so much. All the various national discussions and levels of importance. Some of them don't go away and probably won't for a long time, but others come and go. So really interesting stuff that was, as I say, in that more cultural civic space as opposed to a business structure.
At the time of recording this, you will soon be on the airwaves with Tim Gossage. Tell us about that project. It seems really exciting, and can't wait to tune in. So how did that come about, Gilly?
Yeah, that's it came about because the radio network SEN, which has been established in Melbourne for over a couple of decades, sports and entertainment network. That's basically over the last few years has tried to expand to have a more global footprint and cover off on the various markets around Australia. And markets, I mean the varying different sporting codes in those markets, to make sure that the listeners that follow sport can, if they sort of in the digital world, they got the opportunity, say from Sydney or Brisbane, to tune into the SEN coverage in Melbourne. A lot of it might be too much AFL for them. So they've branched out and set up a footprint across all the various states, capital cities, and Perth is their sort of final frontier to establish a base here and set up the station here. So I was very, humbled to be asked to be at part of that sort of launch here in the WA market. Radio is an area that I've really been keen to play around in and have a go at for a number of years, just from the little bit of experience that I've had in either filling in for a show or even just going in and doing interviews and sitting and speaking across a table with the microphone and not being not paranoid, but not being too conscious about it. I know there's cameras in most radio studios now in this day and age, but you're not on TV thinking about the camera. It's more just probably a bit of a lighter, free-flowing medium to be able to get into.
Yeah.
So I've been really keen to give it a try, but the right opportunity hasn't presented itself. There's been some where we sort of nearly manufactured it, but a bit like what you asked about the brand association, sort of at the end of the day, I wouldn't go through with it because it just wasn't quite right. It was going to be too forced, or it was going to be too packed in another already busy schedule, and I wouldn't be able to give it the time and concentration that I feel it warrants. So this opportunity's come up. We're just a couple of days a week at the start, Fridays and Mondays. Timmy Gossage, I've known for 25 years. He's been a great friend and provided me with invaluable experience around TV 25 years ago when I was playing for WA, but was the Channel 10 sort of rookie and doing a few stories and learning about editing and interviewing and so on. So Goss has been a wonderful sort of, I guess, pseudo mentor for years and a good friend and so experienced. So that's going to be great fun with him, and hopefully a chance just to get in there and cover off on a whole host of sports and be entertaining and interesting and engage with the audience.
We can't wait for that. Gilly, really mindful of your time. So just before I leave you, I wanted to probably look at one of the quotes that you mentioned in an interview with Usman Khawaja, and also possibly the one with Howie as well. A quote that's attitudes are contagious. Is yours worth catching?
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
I think that's the single most valuable lesson I took out of my cricketing journey. There's a lot of wonderful leadership that I was privy to and played under and guided by, and a lot of be it organised or organic mentorship, that you just some figureheads and teammates and managers and coaches, administrators that you be in and around, and you learn a lot from. But I think that's the single one most important, that I think you can transfer that into everyday life, no matter what or who you are and what you do. And that was one that Steve Waugh introduced our team to, and that I held on to most dearly when we were in India, funnily enough, in 2001. And, that Australian attitude that I mentioned early had been the handbrake to us not being successful there for up to 31 years at that point, and 34 years eventually when we finally achieved the victory in India, that group of players. But it was clearly around attitude. But Steve, I think it speaks for itself. It's every day you get up, you can ask yourself how you think, ask how you feel is how you think. I'm getting that all mixed up. How you think is how you'll feel, and that's how you'll act. So if you get up and you think, I'm going to be negative or grumpy, that's how you're going to feel, and that's how you'll act. And so it's a question you can ask yourself every day. What's your attitude going to be? Is it going to be positive? Great, you're off and running. And if you're in an environment, be it a family environment or a team environment, sporting or a business working network environment, it's contagious. You've got the chance to set the tone. That's why it's stuck with me. It's very, very appropriate for a cricketing analogy, but I found that can so easily transfer across into life in general. And it's one that my kids sick of me saying it, and it's one I need to remind myself of, because there's days like all of us where I am a bit flat or a bit negative, and I'm focusing the wrong way about it, and I often just stop and think, hang on a minute, no, don't. Just remember that quote and try to change it.
Gilly, thank you so much for supporting the show and coming on. And thank you as well for just being you and such a positive role model. Growing up, that positivity and the way you went about things was inspiring. All the best with everything, and a huge thank you as well.
A pleasure, mate. Really nice to talk to you. And I love your cross-section of topics. It makes for great discussion, and hopefully the listeners find it interesting to listen to. But that sort of cultural diversity and inclusion, so important in society, and some sport and life experience. It's been really enjoyable, mate. Great to catch up.
So there we have it. The great man, Adam Gilchrist. Please visit abidimam.com to get the show goodies. Thanks to you for listening, Sitebeat for their support, and a big shout out to Adelaide and Nick Lolev, supporters of the show who recently got married in the southwest of Western Australia. Until next time, keep smiling, keep scoring.